Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be, wherever you are, and welcome to the 49th installment of the year 2022 of the University at Buffalo School of Management's Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness 52 Weeks of Leadership program. I always have to rehearse that a little before I get started. It's kind of a mouthful. Thank you so much for joining us. Hi, my name is Jim. I'm the faculty director of the center. Every week, we try to put together some practical leadership content that you can use to help you be more effective in whatever your role is, based on research and insights from practice. If you'd like to check out past installments of the series, just plug 52 Weeks of Leadership into your favorite web browser. Should bring you to a site that looks a little bit like this. And you'll be able to access an archive of a lot of our recordings. You can also search for us on YouTube. We've got a lot of content on LinkedIn and other social media. It's all free, so why not check it out? Insights from actually some of the top leadership researchers in the world and also me. So thank you again very much for joining us here in the holiday season we're just getting into. Here right now, it's the first week of December 2022. We've just wrapped up Thanksgiving. Every month, in the 52 Weeks of Leadership, we partner with a different company that we feature that's doing great things in the realm of leadership. And we ask them, what do you want the theme to be for this month that you'll talk about, that you'll discuss, that you've got some really great insights to share with us? What do you really have enthusiasm and energy around that you want to share? So with that lead-in, I guess it shouldn't have been surprising to me that the company I went to for the month of December 2022 said, well, let's talk about energy. Let's talk about enthusiasm. Let's talk about the leader as someone who spreads energy throughout the organization, throughout the team, throughout their employees. The leader as someone who's not just a chief executive officer, but maybe also a chief energy officer. And I don't say that in a goofy sense or in a fake sense, but someone who spreads a real genuine and positive kind of energy around the organization, which I thought was a great topic. And I also think we've got a great partner for the holiday season, for Christmas time. I'm moving over to the wrong side. We're going to be working this month with the CEO of the Goodwill of Western New York. Boy, it doesn't get much more Christmassy than that, right? It doesn't get much more of a good cause than the Goodwill. And their CEO, Thomas Ulbrich, excuse me, a longtime friend of ours here at the University at Buffalo School of Management, the former head of our Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership, which has started has helped to start literally thousands of businesses throughout West New York. Tom is himself a serial entrepreneur who's been in a great many leadership roles. And he sent me some of his preliminary thoughts on this topic, and he's thought very, very deeply about this. So we're going to be very excited to share some of his thoughts and practical insights with you, news you can use, things you can put into practice right away to start conveying the right kind of energy, maybe just a little bit better throughout your team and throughout your organization. Now, in introducing this topic, I got to thinking, okay, well, what can I talk to people about the research? What do we know about energy, sharing, being a chief energy officer there? And I actually started somewhere that might surprise you. I went back to, the first thing that I thought of was a slide that I always share when I do trainings and speeches and presentations on the topic of servant leadership. It's a quote by the gentleman who came up with the idea, a former AT&T executive named Robert Greenleaf. And this is part of the quote that I share. Am I sensitive to the needs and aspirations of all who may be affected by what I say, think, and do? And Greenleaf was talking here specifically about leadership roles. And here's what he meant by that. When you're in a leadership role, whether you want it or not, whether you like it or not, people are emulating you. Even if you think you're not a role model to any degree, you actually are to some degree. I always compare it to kind of the controversy that came up about 20 years ago when the former NBA star Charles Barkley said that he didn't view himself as a role model for young kids, and he didn't think he needed to be one. He didn't think he deserved to be one. He didn't think he should act like one because he was just an NBA player. How would that make him a role model? And a lot of sportscasters and other people in his network told him, it doesn't matter if you want to be a role model, you are one by virtue of your position. It's the same thing in leadership, maybe not to the same degree. But if you pause and think a little bit about how you thought of people who were in the position you're in now 10 years ago, do that. Think about whatever position you're in now, whatever you're doing now. Think about how you would have thought of someone in that position 10 years ago. If you're like most people, consciously or subconsciously, you think, well, I kind of put them on a pedestal. I kind of thought they were special. I kind of thought they were important. Part of me maybe wanted to be more like them because I wanted to have that kind of prestigious role at some point in the future. Research shows that we all do this to some degree. When people are in positions of authority, and especially if we respect them, but it may not even matter if we respect them or not, we tend to act a little bit more like them. So why is that relevant to this conversation, this idea of energy? Well, do you want your team, do you want your employees, do you want your organization to be a high energy one or a low energy one? Do you want that energy to be directed affectionately towards each other or aggressively towards each other? These are the kinds of things that people can pick up from you, and they will pick up from you if you're in a leadership role. Research shows even something as simple as if you're walking down the hall and people see you, are you doing it with a smile on your face or with a frown? Are you walking with your head held high or are you a little slouched over? Are you walking quickly and briskly as if you've got a lot to do? Or are you walking slowly as if there's really not that much important going on? All of these are subtle, subconscious psychological cues that people can and do pick up on. Now, I hear a lot when I talk with people that they want to be enthusiastic leaders and that they want to have enthusiastic followers. They want to have enthusiastic teams. They want to have enthusiastic organizations. And this is reasonable. Who wouldn't want that? Of course, you want it to be the right kind of enthusiasm. You want it to be an authentic kind of enthusiasm. Here's a little something interesting that you may not have known about, completely useless knowledge for you in today's installment of the 52 Weeks of Leadership. The word we consider enthusiasm in the English language, well, hundreds of years ago, it actually wasn't just one word. There were two words to describe this context. And one of them had more positive connotations, one of them more negative connotations. And actually, enthusiasm, that word, hundreds of years ago, that wasn't a good thing. Enthusiasm was considered the negative side of energy. In fact, very specifically, enthusiasm was the word that you would use to describe a heretic, a charlatan. The exact definition might be someone who claimed to have a vision from God and was now a very powerful and important person, but was faking it all along the way. A false energy, a false messenger, false enthusiasm, someone very authentic. That's actually, historically, what the word enthusiasm meant. Now, Robert Greenleaf, the founder of the idea of servant leadership who I was just talking about, he actually, very smart guy, he knew this. And he said, hundreds of years ago, I don't know why we just started using enthusiasm instead of the other word. He argued, maybe we should try to put the other word a little bit more into practice, and that word was entheos. Use that in a conversation. It'll make you sound really smart. It's from the Old Greek, meaning inspiration, meaning inspired by God. And the actual meaning of this term in the modern day, as much as we can't have it since we never use it anymore, is the power actuating one who is inspired. And I know there's some big words there, and I sound like a professor sharing that with you, but just say that out loud. It's kind of powerful. The power actuating one who is inspired. It means this genuine sense of energy from deep within you that I'm doing something that I believe in, I'm doing something that I'm passionate about. It's not necessarily the outward display. The outward display of enthusiasm, as we all know, those could be fake or they could be authentic. Entheos is what's inside you, where you say, I care about this. This is important. This is something that I want to be. This is something that I want to share with the rest of the world. Now, as I said, Greenleaf, here's a picture of him. He thought very deeply about this. This is a little bit of a philosopher, and he created some tests, some statements, some tests, and some things you could do to see if you really had this kind of productive entheos, which as a leader would motivate and energize and engage your employees. So some of the tests he gave were, do you have a concurrent satisfaction and dissatisfaction with the status quo? Well, isn't that a paradox, Jim? Yeah, it kind of is, but think about it. Are you satisfied enough that you're content where you are with what you're doing? You think you're in the right direction. You think you're doing the right things for your customers, for your employees, for your stakeholders, for your stockholders. Are you satisfied with that? But at the same time, does it kind of nag you that, this could be better? We could be doing this a little better, and I want to do something better about this. That's what he meant by that. A growing sense of purpose in whatever you do. Isn't that a beautiful phrase? Do you feel that whatever you do, you feel you're doing it for a reason, and this is something that aligns with the kind of person who you are? And do you think your employees feel that way as well? He wrote, becoming more willing to be seen as you truly are. He wrote, you cannot fake entheos. You cannot fake true, legitimate, credible energy. And people are pretty good at picking up on the inauthentic stuff. So are you becoming more willing? Are you really willing to say what you really feel? If someone asks, hey, what do you think about this plan? What do you think about this initiative that the company's starting up, that the organization is spearheading? Are you willing to say, well, I'm really not sure it's the best idea, and here's why. Becoming conscious of good use of time and unhappy with wasting it. This is actually something I've been thinking a lot about lately. Most people, research shows, I hate to say this, most people waste a lot of time at work. There's a lot of research on this. Why? Because they don't care. Because they're not engaged, because they're not motivated, because they don't have the entheos for what they do at work. Now, I think a lot of us have entheos for something. It might be a favorite TV show or book or movie or video game or whatever it might be. But for what we do, if we don't have entheos for it, well, then we don't mind wasting our time. So how do you feel about that? How do your employees, how do the people around you feel about that? A sense of achieving your basic personal goals through your work. Isn't that a lovely thing? If you are not in a career where you've got this sense of achieving your basic personal goals through what you do, maybe you're in the wrong line of work. Have you ever talked to your employees about, hey, do you feel like you're doing what you want to do in life through your work here? It's a conversation worth having. And then finally, and this one's a little bit more specific to the servant leadership view of things, an evolving view of people. And Greenleaf wrote, a view of people where you see them not just as means to the end of whatever the organization, whatever the team's doing, but as ends in and of themselves, valuing and respecting them as persons and seeing how they fit into your own entheos and how you can fit into their entheos and share into that vision. And this stuff is important for research beyond what philosophers like Greenleaf say. For instance, here's one of my favorite papers by Atwater and Carmeli in one of our top journals, the Leadership Quarterly, published in 2009, in which they were really trying to dive into what makes employees become more innovative, what makes them more creative, what makes them both more willing to speak up with ideas and to take time to come up with novel and useful ideas in the first place. They found one of the big, statistically significant, meaningful predictors of this was the level of energy that the employees, or entheos we might say, that the employees evidenced throughout the organization. How did we get there? Well, you can probably tell from the title of the paper. We got there, the employees who had stronger relationships with their leaders, stronger, more meaningful relationships, filled with positive affect, filled with loyalty, filled with responsibility, filled with trust, things along these lines. The employees that had those kinds of relationships with their leaders were more energetic at work. It makes sense, but here's scientific evidence that it's true, and the employees who are more energetic at work were the ones who were the most creative and innovative. Some more thought of this comes from one of the most prolific leadership scholars in modern times. It's not a household name that you've ever heard of, but it's someone who's very well known in the research world. This gentleman, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, is Dr. Manfred Ketsvries. Gosh, I hope I said that right. A Danish scholar who for most of his career was at INSEAD, who's been writing for decades and thinking very, very deeply about what leadership is. Now, back in 1994, in a journal called the Academy of Management Perspectives, he wrote a piece that wasn't so much a let's do a scientific experiment or let's do a scientific study and see what happens. It was more of a, hey, I've been doing a lot of these experiments and studies and listening to leaders doing interviews, thinking deep, and here's what I've come up with kind of as a conglomeration of all of this. And one of the main things he said in the article was that energy plays a crucial role in leadership. He wrote that the leader is basically the storehouse of energy for the entire team, for the entire organization. He or she is the manifestation of the energy for the team or for the organization, and that comes with a great responsibility. Now, Dr. Ketsvries said there were two kinds of energy that leaders often share in organizations. One was aggressive energy, where you say, I don't like this is bad, this is something we need to improve, this is something we need to defeat, this is something I am unhappy about, basically is what it says. And then affectionate energy, this is something that I am happy about. And he said that often we direct these types of energy to the wrong targets. It's very easy if we're unhappy with something to direct that aggressive energy to one of our employees, to actually the people who are trying to fix it or who need to fix it. And while sometimes this kind of aggressive energy can be called for, more often than not, we're not using it at the right times. He actually pointed to a quote from Jack Welch, who was at the time the CEO of GE, still recognized as one of the most successful business leaders of the 21st century. And here's a really great quote from him. I don't want you to fight your neighbor at the next desk. If you're in plastics, I want you to be angry at DuPont. If you're in electronics, I want you to fight Westinghouse. Never direct this aggressive energy at each other. We're the ones who need to fix it. We're the ones who need to fight the good fight. Let's address it towards our competitors. Or let me put it a different way. Let's address it towards the environment. Let's direct it towards the problem that we're trying to solve, not the people who are trying to solve that problem. Then as far as affectionate energy goes, here's a quote from Dr. Ketstefries from this paper. Every leader at whatever level is to some extent a kind of psychiatric social worker. Wow, that's the, when I first read that, I was like, a psychiatric social worker? That's not what I signed up for this. I'm just the boss, I'm just the team leader. I'm not any kind of social worker. If you said that, like me, you're Charles Barkley. It doesn't matter if you want to do this or not. If you are in a leadership role and your employees view you, or your subordinates or your teammates view you as credible, if they have any kind of loyalty or respect for you, whether you like it or not, you are this kind of psychiatric social worker, the container of emotions for his or her subordinates. As you go, the rest of the people around you will follow. The way he or she goes about creating this kind of holding environment distinguishes effective from ineffective leaders. And again, this is a gentleman, Dr. Ketstefries, who researched leadership all his life, looked at all kinds of different facets, all kinds of different behaviors, all kinds of different competencies, leaders in all kinds of different industries. And he came back to this idea that leaders are the container of everybody's energy. And that's a responsibility that you have to use wisely to make sure you're communicating that well, even from the little things you do, and communicating the right kinds of energy. So that's kind of an introduction to what the leadership research says about energy and enthusiasm, or entheos, if you will, at work. So what can we do about it? Well, we'll have Tom Olbrich of Goodwill of Western New York on to talk to us a little bit about it. But here's 3 quick practical takeaways that I pulled from the literature that I just went over with you from the scholarship. Number 1, acknowledge that impact you have on others. Like, honestly, take 30 seconds out of your day. Don't just put everything away. Don't look at your email. Don't look at your phone. Close your office door. Go somewhere private if you don't have an office or you're in a cubicle and aren't able to do this. And just think about who might, consciously or subconsciously, I know this is a little bit uncomfortable, but they might look up to you, even if you don't ask for that, or you're not comfortable with that, or you never wanted it. Is it possible that there's someone in your surroundings, in your organization, in your family? It's going to be your kids, your grandkids, someone like that, someone who looks up to you. Think about that. There are people, think about, again, how you felt about people who have your job right now 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it may be. I mean, I can do this. I put associate professors on a pedestal back when I was a doctoral student, which wasn't that long ago. So I know that there are some people, for instance, doctoral students, undergraduate students, junior scholars who might look up to me. Gosh, now I'm a little uncomfortable, but it's important for me to acknowledge, and it's important for you too. So with that in mind, the little things you do, the speed you walk down the hall, when you pass a coworker, do you smile at them, or are you grumpy? Emotions are very much tied into this idea of energy. Then consider your purpose and act in accordance with it. This is something that I encourage my students to do so much. Take a step back and think about whatever industry you're in. And by the way, if you're in something like healthcare or education, this is so directed to you. Think about the industry you're in and remind yourself, why did you choose this career path? Or maybe it's a question, think about the company you work with. Why did you choose to work with that company? What made you think this would be a great place to work, or that it would be something you want to do? Is this still in accordance with your purpose? If so, think about that, cogitate on it, act on it. That's a great thing. If you've got an employer where you can go to work and do things that are personally you see as your identity, your purpose, your raison d'etre, your reason for being, that's a beautiful thing. Focus on that. That will help you build that energy up, because that's the roots. That is the core of real entheos. And then finally, don't forget to demonstrate empathy. Stop and focus on your interpersonal sensitivity. And what I mean by that, think about a few people you've interacted with at work today, yesterday. Were you as interpersonally sensitive, were you as empathetic as you could have been, as you needed to be? Now, odds are you were just rushing because, Work's tough, right? These are VUCA times we live in, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So there's always so much to do. So sometimes we forget to stop and especially ask our employees, ask our team, the people around us, hey, how are you holding up? Do you need help with anything? My favorite question, what can I do today to help you accomplish your goals? And you may be saying, well, why do I have to ask that of them? Why don't they ask that of me? Because you want to be a leader. Because you call yourself a leader, because you're watching this video series, hopefully to become a better leader. This is the kind of thing that leaders do. Researchers and practitioners agree. So that's a little bit on the scholarship behind energy, enthusiasm, and entheos, and acting as a chief energy officer. Please stay tuned in the coming weeks as we bring you more content on this topic of how to really convey the right positive kind of energy throughout the organization, featuring the Goodwill of Western New York. What a great cause for the Christmas season and holiday season, and their CEO, Tom Olbrich. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.